It's Thursday, August 20, 2020, as we continue our conversation on the political economic space as it covers policy, politics, investments, and economy. But let's give you a breakdown of what we will be looking at today as we focus on subnationals. You agree with me that subnationals are very key in our national development. First, we'll look at the economic data that's come so far, the July 2020 inflation and states profile. Also, we'll look at the July 2020 transportation fare across states, and this is courtesy of the National Bureau of Statistics. Also take you to retrospect of an analysis on state and debt analysis from the FBN Quest, and looking at states, Lagos State Research Council supporting innovation and entrepreneurship will tell you what they're doing, and also a Proshare analysis from the Economics Watch on the debt to revenue level of state and what they need to do. Let's get on to today's conversation. We'll begin with the July 2020 inflation rate, which showed price movements in various sections. Now we take you to the state profiles and how it was impacted. In analyzing the price movements under this section, the NBS noted that the consumer price index weighted by consumption expenditure patterns differed across states. Accordingly, the weight assigned to a particular food or non-food item may differ from the analysis from state to state, making interstate comparisons of consumption basket inadvisable and potentially misleading. That's the caveat set by the NBS. Now let's get to the all items inflation. First, for July 2020, all items inflation year-on-year basis was highest in Bauchi. Bauchi State is in the northeastern region of Nigeria, and that was 16.10% in terms of the all items inflation. Kogi State came second. Kogi State is in north-central region of Nigeria, while Sokoto and Plateau State. Sokoto is in the northwest, while Plateau State is in north-central, both tallied with 15.20% to be third in that category. For the slowest inflation rise for year-on-year, Lagos State in southwestern Nigeria pulled 10.70%, while Adamawa State came second in that category with 10.60%. Adamawa is in northeastern Nigeria, while Kwara State, 10.50% in north-central Nigeria, recorded the levels of slowest rise in headline year-on-year inflation. On a month-on-month basis, however, the July 2020 all items inflation was highest in Kogi State. Kogi State is in north-central Nigeria with 2.85%. Zamfara State in northwestern Nigeria pulled 2.44%, and Yobe State pulled 2.35%. Yobe State is in northeastern Nigeria. Ondo State, 0.67% in southwestern Nigeria. Adamawa in northeastern Nigeria pulled 0.63%, while Ogun and Imo tallied with 0.62%. Ogun State is in southwestern Nigeria, while Imo is in southeastern Nigeria. They recorded the slowest rise also in headline month-on-month inflation. Looking at the food inflation index for July 2020, the food inflation showed that Kogi was the highest in terms of the year-on-year basis category on the food inflation with 20.09%. Sokoto followed with 19.28%. Sokoto is in northwestern Nigeria, while Plateau State in north-central Nigeria came third in that category with 18.05%. Adamawa State in northeastern Nigeria pulled 13.37%. Abia State 13.33% in southeastern Nigeria, and Lagos Southwest 13.13%, all recorded the slowest rise year-on-year when you looked at the food inflation. On the month-on-month basis category for food inflation for July 2020, the highest record was in Zamfara, in northwest with 3.40%, Kogi State 3.32% in north-central, and Yobe State in northeastern Nigeria with 3%. Niger and Ogun State were joint in terms of the slowest rise with 0.44%, Lagos 0.41%, with Adamawa State recording price deflation, or what we call negative inflation, which is a general decrease in the general price level of food or a negative food inflation rate. We go on a breather, and when we return, we'll give you further updates, economic data as it concerns states.
When we first met, The first question I asked was,
where have you been all my life?
Since then, we have taken every step together.
Especially when the kids were schooling abroad. Oh, how we made it through those years.
When we shared the same passion,
The same drive.
And the same vision to succeed. Let's help you achieve your visions and aspirations, milestone by milestone. FCMB, my bank and I.
Welcome back, and let's take you to the Transport Fare Watch from the National Bureau of Statistics for July 2020, which covered the following categories, namely bus journey within the city per drop constant route, bus journey intercity, state route, charge per person, airfare charge for specified routes, that's single journey, and journey by motorcycle, which people like to call Okada per drop, and lastly, the waterway passenger transport. And this is across states, and we bring this analysis from the NBS. The average fare paid by commuters for bus journey within the city increased by 7.62% month-on-month and by 26.41% year-on-year to 247 naira 46 kobo in July 2020 from 229 naira 94 kobo in June 2020. States with highest bus journey fare within city were Zamfara State with 500 naira and 40 kobo, Nasarawa State 358 naira 20 kobo, and Cross River State 350 naira. While states with the lowest bus journey fare within city were Bauchi 145 naira 10 kobo, River State 170 naira, and Kebbi State 170 naira 20 kobo. In the areas of average fare paid by commuters for bus journey into city, it increased by 4.09% month-on-month and by 17.24% year-on-year to 1,898 naira 14 kobo in July 2020 from 1,823 naira 62 kobo in June 2020. States with highest bus journey fare intercity were Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, with 4,190 naira, while Sokoto State had 2,734 naira, and Adamawa State 2,700 naira. While states with lowest bus journey fare within city were Bauchi 1,250 naira 20 kobo, Enugu and Kano tallied with 1,260 naira, and Bayelsa State also came third with 1,283 naira 60 kobo. In terms of average fare paid by air passengers for specified routes, single journey increased by 19.09% month-on-month and also increased by 19.79% year-on-year to 36,611 naira 22 kobo in July 2020 from 30,743 naira 65 kobo in June 2020. States with the highest airfare were Lagos with 39,600 naira, while Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, and Rivers State tallied at 39,000 naira, Anambra State 38,750 naira, while states with the lowest airfare were Akwa Ibom State with 13,500 naira, Sokoto with 32,500 naira, and Katsina 35,000 naira. Average fare paid by commuters for journey by motorcycle per drop increased by 9.06% month-on-month and by 45.38% year-on-year to 172 naira 46 kobo in July 2020 from 158 naira 14 kobo in June 2020. States with highest journey fare by motorcycle per drop were Rivers with 294 naira 20 kobo, Kogi with 289 naira 60 kobo, and Yobe with 264 naira. While states with the lowest journey fare by motorcycle per drop were Adamawa 79 naira, Katsina 85 naira 10 kobo, and Kebbi State 97 naira 50 kobo. Average fare paid by passengers for waterway passenger transport increased by 3.42% month-on-month and by 17.67% year-on-year to 648 naira 26 kobo in July 2020 from 626 naira 81 kobo in June 2020. States with highest fare by waterway passenger transport were Delta 2,000 naira, Bayelsa 1,970 naira, and River State 1,941 naira, while states with lowest fare by waterway passenger transport were Borno 139 naira, Gombe 199 naira 50 kobo, and Abuja, Federal Capital Territory, with 254 naira. Those are data, economic data that we get on states, and this was covering the average transport fare for the month previous month of July 2020. Now let's get on to analysis around debt, which is a very key issue for states. The debt to revenue and how debts are managed across states is very important, enabling them to carry out their fiscal activities and support development across the nation. And so recently, the FBN Quest had some insight into the heavy weight of debt and how it's affecting states, governments, and their operations. According to the FBN Quest, the domestic debt of states governments at end of March amounted to 4.11 trillion naira. That's into retrospect, equivalent to 2.9% of the gross domestic product of the country and unchanged from 3 months previously. It increased by 840 billion naira in 2015 alone, which saw the first of 5 debt relief packages launched by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari over 2 years. The annual rise in the burden has since slowed, and the states are now subject to greater regulatory oversight, and banks have generally lost their appetite to lend to states due to the weakness of the oil price, and we would add this period of the COVID-19 pandemic disruptions. The impact on the monthly distributions by the Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAC, on which most states depend on, is even much felt. 5 largest debtors at the end of 2019 were Lagos State, 3 oil producers and Cross River states. They made up 32.7% of the total, leaving the sizable balance divided between 31 state governments and the Federal Capital Territory. Taken into retrospect, at the end of 2011, the 5 were the same states except that Bayelsa, which is another oil producer, was briefly the leading debtor. So as with external borrowings, Lagos State is the largest domestic debtor in terms of bank borrowings and bond issuances across the Federation. It accounts for 2019, tells us that it is well placed to meet its obligations. In terms of being able to meet up its borrowing obligations, the analysis shows that Lagos State is capable. And from the perspective, they see a total revenue of 645 billion naira, in which internally generated revenue is 348 billion naira comfortably for Lagos State, exceeding statutory allocations from FAC, which is 230 billion naira, and net earnings of 266 billion naira, which are translated into an overall surplus of 67 billion naira after capital items, depreciation, and public debt service. This data series excluded the issuance of naira-denominated bonds, which currently amounted to 390 billion naira in total when it concerns Lagos. Lagos alone accounts for 330 billion naira and is the last state government to have come to the market. They've been there several times, but it's the last to come to the market. Since Cross River State in May 2015, coupon payments and principal repayments are deducted from the monthly distributions by the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee. And it'll be interesting in subsequent editions to tell you how states have been assessing the capital market, particularly the debt market, to drive the activities and fund, particularly in a challenging time of revenue, as we can see across the country. Innovation is the key word in this period, as the challenges we see from the volatility in the crude oil price market and the COVID-19 pandemic disruptions is also making states to value research and development. And Lagos State seems to be leading in this regard, as 23 young innovators and tech firms have been awarded a total of grant of 100 million naira by the Lagos State government to pursue various technology-driven innovations across the 6 pillars of the development agenda of the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The recipients are the first set of beneficiaries to be picked to benefit from 250 million naira seed capital earmarked last year as research and innovation fund by the state government. The awardees were selected through a highly competitive process overseen by the Lagos State Science, Research and Innovation Council last week, which was established in 2019 by Governor Sanwo-Olu, with the mandate to facilitate and encourage the development of innovative solutions to solve local problems using cutting-edge technology. The governor congratulated the successful awardees of the research funds, urging them to apply the grants judiciously and use it to transform their ideas into reality. Governor Sanwo-Olu said his administration was born with the sole aim to solve contemporary challenges facing the state, stressing that the innovation grant was initiated with the objective to empower local innovators and thinkers with the knowledge of context and peculiarities to create specific solutions for local challenges. According to him, last December, the Research and Innovation Council was inaugurated with a seed fund of 250 million naira in demonstration of the commitment to transform Lagos into a 21st century digital economy and smart city. The body has a mandate to facilitate investment in science, innovation, and STEM education throughout the state, and to encourage the development of innovative solutions to problems using cutting-edge technology. And that's Lagos State taking the lead, and this is also expected to challenge other states to leverage technology, to invest in research and development, because that's the way to go in terms of ideas that can move states forward. And every state has a peculiar and unique challenge, which is, according to them, I mean, for Lagos, part of the huge challenge is logistics. So ideas and innovation that can help address logistics, transportation, particularly, will really help the states to move forward. So that is laudable, and we hope that the fund will be used effectively to bring innovation to the states. Now let's get on to Proshare Research. Recently wrote to the Coronomics Watch its insight on the high debt-to-revenue ratio that states across the Federation are facing. As I said earlier, states in this period are also trying to manage their resources, balance their budget, ensure that they're able to carry out activities amidst the challenges of the pandemic and the volatility in the crude oil price, which translates to the current pressures we see at the fiscal space. And from the analysis, the high debt-to-revenue ratio across the various states of the Federation is another source of concern, according to the Proshare research team. According to the Debt Management Office, the DMO, Nigeria guidelines on borrowing, no state should have outstanding loans that are more than 50% of their total revenues in the previous 12 months. That's the standard. However, statistics provided by the Financial Reporting Council in its 2018 annual report show that all the states of the Federation in Nigeria had debts beyond 50% of their previous 12-month revenues. That is a huge challenge, if you ask me, a challenge of fiscal responsibility which states need to adopt and take seriously. Lagos State recorded the highest debt-to-revenue ratio. I mean, this is not surprising, it's noted, and its net revenue of 119.02 billion naira with a total debt of 968.16 billion naira. This left the state with a debt-to-revenue ratio of 813.41%. Massive, very massive. It also means that the state had gone beyond the DMO limit by 763.41%. That's how Lagos went in terms of its debt-to-revenue ratio inside. And Lagos was quickly followed by Osun State with a debt-to-revenue ratio of 781.7%, while it had a net revenue of 22.84 billion naira. Its total public debt stood at 178.52 billion naira. This means that the state had a debt-to-revenue ratio of 781.71% and had gone beyond the limit set by the DMO by 731.7%. Other top states in terms of high debt-to-revenue ratios include Cross River, Ekiti, Ogun, Plateau, Edo, Bauchi, Adamawa, Kaduna, Nasarawa, Imo, and Oyo states. The spread of the coronavirus pandemic, which has projected to worsen the state debt-to-revenue ratio in 2020, definitely brings additional pressures, and it will be interesting to see how the states will begin to recalibrate their operations and align with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, because it's very critical at this time. And this brings to question the place of transparency and accountability. And so for all the states mentioned and other states in the Federation, the Finance Ministry, Budget and Economic Planning needs to have that synergy in aligning the plans of the states and various debts they owe and tie them to the impact of projects that they have embarked on. A major challenge of states in Nigeria is the fact that a lot of debts have been acquired, but the impact in terms of the projects tied to is not felt. And this is why today We talk about huge level of poverty. We talk about a wide level of disparity, which shows why Nigeria still is lagging behind in the area of inclusive growth. It also shows the challenge of unemployment, which of course, earlier this week, we reported 27.1% surge in Nigeria. And again, the challenge of the fact that people are not gainfully employed, skills development is not taken and utilized, and investment in even health and education, which should be the bedrock of driving an economy, is low in the country. And so this calls to question the role of states in national development. And for all state governors and their economic team, for those that have economic advisory teams, they need to really take this seriously. Look at their debt to revenue level and really take steps to reduce it. Particularly Lagos State mentioned here, Osun State, and the various other states lined up. It will be a very huge burden and challenge if these governments, particular administrations, do not take steps to reduce it drastically. It will leave additional burdens for subsequent governments. And how can we achieve development if we are not even tying what we borrowed for to real tangible development and transformation? Infrastructure projects, which we've seen across the states, most of them have not been completed or are near 80% completion levels, and yet debts were acquired for them. So this is a call for transparency, particularly at the state level, because over the times we are focusing more on the federal, central government, but at the state level, that level of accountability is required too, to see how they are contributing to national development. Like before, we would have said the oil revenue was stable and flows were coming in, but now with the volatility, it is no longer business as usual. And with COVID-19 pandemic, it calls for innovation. It calls for transparency, accountability, and dexterity on the part of the leaders. So we appeal to the governments, state governments across the nation, to once again review the debt to revenue margins and also take seriously the Debt Management Office guidelines. It is not a welcome development that most states have flouted that guideline of the Debt Management Office in terms of over 50% of debt in terms of carried over to the subsequent years. It's not showing that the states are taking seriously the issue of fiscal responsibility, and this has its effect on the citizens. So we appeal to governors, we appeal to the commissioners of finance and the economic teams for those states that have it to go back and review these whole issues, because it is a burden to our country. We have taken our time to always call the federal government to account. We must also call the state governments to account. And this is kudos to the Proshare team for bringing this to bear, and we will continue to monitor and call for accountability from the state governments. And speaking about states, this period of the post-economic recovery from COVID-19, Akwa Ibom State comes to the fore as the post-COVID-19 economic recovery team chaired by seasoned economist Professor Pan Hoganekbo, recently engaged Main One, a major tech company in the country, known for their work in providing broadband technology and infrastructure. Akwa Ibom State is looking at harnessing the digital economy and exploring how it can key into the ICT, information and communications technology space. That is one enabler for a digital economy. And so there have been interactions recently in Lagos with the Main One management to explore how the states can plug into becoming a robust digital economy to address issues like unemployment and poverty. So it's a good step, and we hope that that engagement will lead to strategic layout of deepening broadband technology and also exploring tech hubs that can drive innovation. Just in this edition, we've captured what is happening in Lagos State. And this is one area that state governments across the nation should take seriously. I've highlighted here over time that 3 states, namely Ekiti State, led by Governor John Kayode Fayemi, open up the pathway for broadband technology by reducing the right-of-way. And in this week, we featured Mr. Akin Oyebode, the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Trade and Investment, where he said clearly that they have already attracted prospective investment from telco companies and even regional companies to lay over 600 kilometers of broadband fiber optics across the states. That shows you that that's the decision taken by Governor Fayemi is already beginning to attract some investments in the digital economy. Second was Governor Kayode Fayemi, Governor Nasir Rufai, meant to say, of Kaduna State, who reduced totally the charges, and we're also getting signals of prospective investments there. And lastly, Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak of Kwara State. So these three state governors have understood the need to create that enabler for investments in the broadband space to drive digital economy. We expect other state governors, the 33 remaining, to take steps to reduce drastically the charges, the right of way, and the whole processes that will attract more investments in the digital space. I can tell you that if this one step is taken, and all state governors agree, based on their interactions with the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Ali Pantami, we will see the birth of a strong, robust digital economy that can transform states. So with broadband, with connectivity, economic activities can thrive, even down to the rural areas. We can even talk about financial inclusion for rural areas, people living in the rural areas. They can also be connected to digital economy, and we can see a lot of transformation. So this again is a call to state governments to take seriously the enabling environment for investment, particularly into the digital economy. So reduce your right-of-way charges, take the steps taken by Ekiti, Kaduna, and Kwara. They are your colleagues. This is what we would like the Nigerian Governors Forum to continue to pressurize their members to do. Also, the issue of social intervention programs. We've seen a lot happening from the federal government. We need to see a more broad strategic approach from the state governments in terms of effective data capture and effective distribution across rural areas particularly. We need to have more of these social interventions at state levels, not more at the federal, because the federal government has its limitations, but the states are closer, even working more with the local governments. And this also ties into the need for state governments to allow the local government autonomy drive to really fester in the country. And this is one legacy. You remember former President Goodluck Jonathan and the current President Muhammadu Buhari for. They both agree that local governments should have autonomy. So states should not stand in the way. They should allow local governments to unlock their potentials and also drive development to the grassroots level. So imagine local governments like Ikorodu, Boko, Ikotekpene, unlocking development. It will also help their various states where they are located. So this is one also what to the state governments and governors, please allow local governments to unlock their potentials and develop at their levels. There are issues that we've seen around court cases following the autonomy for local governments, but we also want the states to respect that decision. And also another very important aspect that we must take this period for states as we begin to look at how the volatility in the crude oil price is affecting revenues, and also the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the entire economic activities, and we're beginning to pick up the pieces and reconstruct our economy, is the need for economic development programs. And this has been really lacking at state levels. Very few states have a strategy that we can say long-term economic plans. And not just having economic plans, but having them that they can be sustainable. So if a governor lays that plan, it should be legislated, and subsequent governors come in, follow through with that plan, knowing that it's for the development of all citizens, not just an interest of, say, the All Progressive Congress or the People's Democratic Party. States need to embrace robust long-term economic development plans. This will help the states to thrive and be competitive, because when there's absence of competitiveness, we continue to have dependency, particularly on the Federal Account Allocation Committee funds. And that is not what you would use to sustain your activities as a state. So it calls for innovation, it calls for a value for economic development plans, strategic ones. So I call on state governors across the country who have not fashioned out their plans to engage robust and exposed and sound economies from their states. Every state in this country has economists, experts, financial experts that can contribute. It's time to go back and engage them, particularly those even in diaspora too. Engage your diaspora community, professionals who want to invest and who want to bring ideas to move your state forward. This is the time for states to explore that. We'll come out for our last stretch for the day, but let's take another breather and then we'll continue the conversation.
When we first met, the first question I asked was,
Where have you been all my life?
Since then, we have taken every step together.
especially when the kids were schooling abroad. Oh, how we made it through those years.
When we shared the same passion,
The same drive.
and the same vision to succeed. Let's help you achieve your visions and aspirations, milestone by milestone. FCMB, my bank and I.
Welcome back. And in wrapping up, there are two other issues I would like to bring to the fore. The first is our fiscal arrangement. I believe that it's long overdue for us constitutionally to review our fiscal arrangement. And this may also take the support of the National Assembly to take it on board and the executive to support it. Currently, our fiscal arrangement shows that the federal government has 52% of revenue allocation, while 27% goes to states and 21% goes to local governments. That, again, is not sustainable for our fiscal arrangement as a country. I believe that at this point, we can have the federal government having 30%, states 35%, and local governments 35%. This would help to once again scale down development and resources to the states. And under this also, we need to really, as the 9th National Assembly, chaired by Senate President Ahmed Lawan, has promised to take some constitutional steps to review some of the provisions in the Constitution to move our nation forward. They should also take a look at some of the categorization under the exclusive list, which is controlled by the federal government, particularly the areas of solid minerals and mines. We need to have states also involved in being able to tap into their solid minerals and their mines and resources and develop them and gain revenue for them. So example, we've seen the Presidential Artisanal Gold Mine Initiative, which is welcome development, but states like Zamfara, Oshun should be able to harness the resources and be the major ones gaining the revenue and then sending the remaining to the federal government, not the federal government determining it and then giving the rest to the states. So states should be empowered to manage their resources and then an agreed allocation is given to the federal government. That is how we can unlock development. States are endowed with resources, but they cannot harness them effectively because it's controlled under the current structure by the federal government. That is no longer sustainable, and we call on efforts to review the Constitution regarding those socioeconomic areas to be taken seriously. And also, the legislature at the state levels need to step up their game. We need to see more activity from state houses of assembly, particularly looking at enabling laws for investments into the states. For example, the public-private partnership laws that will enable the enforcement of contracts, or strategies that will encourage investors to come to the states to invest and know that their investments are guaranteed and secured. Because most times people have invested in several states but have had issues in terms of the enforcement of contracts or even guaranteeing their investments. This is where House of Assemblies across the state should take the initiative of coming up with enabling laws that guarantees investments, because that's how they can attract more investments and move their state economies forward. We'll call it a wrap today on Thursday, August 2020, as we look at subnationals. We'll have this conversation next week, Thursday again. But you can send your comments and views to news@ProshareNG.com, or also you watch our videos on www.ProshareNG.com and read our news stories and reports, particularly our segment on states and local governments. This period of conversations on the political economic space, please ensure that whatever you're engaging on in terms of conversation, it should be constructive and a productive level of debate. Don't make it abusive. We do not need to abuse ourselves to analyze issues around the political economic space. By 10 a.m., you will join us once again for our conversation on the financial and capital market as it relates to our economy on our Market Review Show. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice time and stay safe.